Wow! I've just been reading this article about the Titanic. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know before.
Like what?
Well, about the lifeboats. Look, there were about 2,200 people on board the ship. And how many lifeboats were there? Only 20. Even if every lifeboat had been full, more than 1,000 people would have stayed on the ship.
So there weren't enough lifeboats?
No, there were 20, but they needed at least 40.
So why weren't there enough?
The people who designed the ship told the director of the company that there weren't enough. But the director, Ismay his name was, this Ismay said there could only be 20.
But why?
Because he said it would look ugly having so many lifeboats on the deck. He wanted the ship to look nice. That was the most important thing for him. And of course he said they weren't necessary because it was impossible for the Titanic to sink.
Yeah, well, we all know he was wrong there.
The thing is, they say that if Ismay had allowed more lifeboats, a lot more people would have survived. But do you know the worst thing?
What?
Ismay was actually a passenger on the Titanic, and he was one of the people who got a place in a lifeboat.
But I thought it was women and children first.
Yes, exactly. He said that he only got in the lifeboat because there were no more women or children. He said there was nobody else waiting.
Well, if that's true, then I can understand it. I would have done the same if I'd been in his place.
Yeah, maybe, but other people say that if it had been their decision to limit the number of lifeboats, they would have stayed on the ship. And there was another thing about this Ismay too. A lot of people say that it was his decision to go so fast, not the captain's. The ship went at full speed, even though they knew that there was the possibility of icebergs in the area. If the ship hadn't been going so fast, the iceberg wouldn't have caused so much damage. But Ismay really wanted to arrive on time in New York because it would have been great publicity for the Titanic.
This Ismay was quite a character.
Well, they say that later he did try to get as much money as possible for the families of the victims. He wanted to help them. So I suppose he wasn't all bad.
It took 3 years to build and less than 3 hours to sink. The most iconic shipwreck in history, the Titanic. Hailed as the most beautiful and luxurious boat of her time, the Titanic set sail once and for all from Southampton, England to New York City on April 10, 1912. She weighed a record-breaking 46,000 tons and was built by some 15,000 people. Ironically, the ship boasted many of the best safety features of its day. A prestigious journal, the Shipbuilder magazine, called the Titanic practically unsinkable. The popular opinion quickly grew that the Titanic was indestructible. An ominous consequence of this overconfidence, during its voyage, there were no passenger safety drills to give instructions on where to go or which lifeboats to board in case of emergency. But there weren't enough lifeboats to begin with, only 20 available, which was enough to carry about half of the total passengers and crew. Bruce Ismay, the owner, thought having 64 lifeboats, enough for everyone on board, would make the ship look too cluttered. This emphasis on elegance didn't stop with Titanic's outward appearance. Inside were top-notch luxuries, the grand staircase running the height of 6 decks, a heated swimming pool, a state-of-the-art gym, 4 restaurants, and 2 barbershops. So how much did the Titanic cost? About $7.5 million at the time, or over $400 million today. Now, over 100 years later, the Titanic has been hidden in darkness, lying over 12,000 feet deep in the Atlantic Ocean. So how exactly did she sink? We do know that on April 14, 1912, the boat entered a region of icebergs. 6 warning messages were sent to Captain Edward John Smith. He adjusted Titanic's course southward, but didn't slow down. By the time lookouts spotted an iceberg, it was too late. The official 1912 accident report suggests that the iceberg tore a gigantic 300-foot gash on the ship's starboard side, ripping over a third of her entire hull. But eyewitnesses say it took over 2 hours to sink, which confuses experts who believe a hole that size would have caused the Titanic to sink much faster. Investigations confirm that the iceberg created smaller punctures below the waterline and not a large gash, which were enough to trigger the tragedy. In 1985, using state-of-the-art sonar, National Geographic explorer Robert Ballard and French oceanographer Jean-Louis Michel found the infamous shipwreck about 400 miles southeast of Newfoundland. Extensive surveys have located artifacts that reveal the human side of the tragedy. A notebook was found 780 feet from the stern. It belonged to a 17-year-old passenger with pencil writing that's still legible. With new technology, we can see and study the Titanic like never before, which is good because our fascination in this tragedy has not relaxed a bit. Perhaps it's the iconic tale of the Titanic that's truly unsinkable.